Good morning. I hope everything's going well in your life today and that this is the beginning of a tremendous week for you. We've been looking for the last few weeks at different ones of the Ten Commandments as God expressed them through Moses in Deuteronomy chapter 5. This was 40 years after they were originally given, but Moses gives this declaration of that original law and then draws several conclusions from it that we're going to look at as we move on into this study. But I want to look today at the sixth of the commandments that he gave. Very simple one. You shall not commit murder. Now, most of us learned it as thou shalt not kill, but it's stronger than the idea of just taking a life. As a matter of fact, there are reasons, even with God, where the taking of a life was considered something that ought to be done. God would have Moses to write in Genesis 9:6, whoever sheds a man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. And God quite often sent the children of Israel into battle against their enemies, and would even say, go out and utterly destroy the Amalekites, for example. And so it wasn't just the matter of taking a life, it was the matter of committing murder, a premeditated, planned destruction of another individual's life. Not some matter of self-defense, not some involvement in protecting oneself from a crime or something that someone was doing to try to destroy them. Not in protecting one's family, for example. That wasn't the kind of thing involved. You shall not commit the act of murder, of taking a human being's life with the full intent that I'm going to destroy that individual. Now, it is intriguing that Jesus, in the great Sermon on the Mount, would pick up on that commandment and carry it so much further than we would ever have imagined. You remember in Matthew chapter 5 when he had just said to them that not one jot or one tittle of the law will anywise pass till all of it is fulfilled. And then unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will in no case enter the kingdom of God. And then he gave this particular application of it. You've heard it said by them of old time, you'll not commit murder. But here's what I say to you, Jesus said. And so let's take it as Jesus offered it and see how far he carried this whole matter about committing murder. Listen to him. Matthew 5, beginning in verse 21. You've heard it said, it will of those of old time, you'll not commit murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you, everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. And whoever insults his brother will be liable to counsel. And whoever says, you fool, will be liable to the hell of fire. So if you're offering your gift at the altar and there remember your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go first and be reconciled to your brother and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are going with him to court, lest your accuser hand you over to the judge and the judge to the guard, and you're put in prison. Truly I say to you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. Now, just think about the command as Moses gave it. You'll not commit murder. If you do, you're going to pay the price for it. But then Jesus takes that so much further. He moves far, far beyond the action of murder to talk about the attitude and the heart behind it. And so he said, the one that is angry at his brother is already putting himself in danger. It's that anger that as it builds, one doesn't change it, but lets it just keep building in their mind, that leads to the hurting of another individual. It leads to either maybe physical murder, but sometimes it's the hurting of them by saying things that tear their heart out or that rip down their reputation. It's that kind of thing that Jesus said is back behind the action of murder. And he said, when you offer the insults that come along the way, then that's moving farther down that line toward the action of murder. It's interesting, our King James Version says, whoever calls his brother Raka. And we look at that and think, well, I've never called anybody that in my life. But we probably have. Because the word that's translated Raka means empty-headed. And so it's the idea of calling someone dumb or stupid or something of that nature. And he said, when you do that, you're moving further in that direction of committing that crime of murder. So I'm telling you, don't be angry at your brother and don't start insulting that brother by saying things about their mind or cutting them down as not being as smart as you are or as smart as someone else that you think they ought to be. And then he takes it one step further. And he said, and if you call somebody a fool, you're in danger of the fires of hell itself. Now, here's an interesting thing about that word that's translated fool. It literally means to be empty-hearted. So he said it's one thing to just get angry. It's another to talk about someone being empty-headed or not being able to think the way you think they should. It's quite another when I start talking about their heart. And I say they have an empty heart. They are a fool. God said, when you do that, you are committing an act of murder in your mind and in your heart that puts you in danger of hell itself. Now, that's pretty serious, isn't it? So no wonder Jesus would go ahead and say, now if you come to offer your gift on the altar and you remember that your brother has something against, leave the gift. Go straight to that brother and make it right with him right then. Then come back and offer your gift on the altar. You know, I think if he were saying to our day, he would say, if you come and you're about to take of the Lord's Supper on Sunday morning and there right in the middle of the handing out of the communion, you remember that your brother has something against you, get up. Just don't stay seated. Go to that brother and make it right then and there. It's more important that you make it right with your brother than it is that you take of the communion on that day. You come back then to offer the gift or to commune with the Lord or to worship the Lord. But you can't worship God right while being angry, frustrated, and down on that brother. And so he said, make it right, then come back to make the offering. And he said, if you get in some kind of disagreement and it's headed toward, solve the problem as quickly as you possibly can. One thing I've noticed about life through the years, and that is the longer a grudge goes on, the deeper it gets, and the harder it is to solve the problem. Quite often, as families have disagreed about things, years go by and they don't even remember for sure what it was that caused the problem to begin with, but the frustration and the anger just keeps on building. No wonder Jesus said, solve it quickly. Get the problem behind you, because here's where it leads. It leads to murder. physically, spiritually, emotionally. Solve the problem now.